Good morning, wormy friends. Gonna do a video on this bin I've chosen. Want to show you how I do my feedings. First of all, that's how I write down everything that I've done in a bin. This is a waterproof paper, so it doesn't ruin your paper. Here is what the package looked like. This is the paper that I use. It's been working out really well because I'm messy and I get a lot of dirt on the paper, and it gets wet and it dries just fine. You can write while it's wet, everything. So that's what that's about. And then these are my covers. This is just a, it's like a vinyl stuff. Found it at a yard sale, so it's a repurpose. $5 for like a huge roll of it. And I was like, man, this stuff is so nice. I wish I hadn't chopped it all up, but it's okay. I have to just, it's okay. Here's my deal with this. It was a purchase product, but I think the worms chew holes in these little air bubbles, so they're gone flat pretty quickly. So much for that, but I found other methods I think I'm gonna use. They seem to like to go up in there and crawl around those little bubbles. So I'm leaving it on there as of now. I may find a benefit. So I see them going up in there. So it's kind of like my backup plan for when, if a bin gets too hot, they want to come to the surface. Moisture collects on that. And so if they are too dry, they can come up there, kind of do their little treatment at the doctor's office. And they come in, they get the moisture back in them, and then down they go. I like to have that. It's almost like a little, little rainforest there, you know, cycling the water. Comes up. I don't like leaving that off the bin. I focus more on using methods just to keep it aerated and keep that lifted up, but that traps the moisture on that plastic, and then it's like it rains back down on the surface, kind of like what would normally happen, I guess, on Earth in an ecosystem. So that's why I do leave those on, to trap the moisture, because I will add my next bit of dry bedding to the top, and then that moisture coming off the old bedding will collect on the dry bedding, and it gets it kind of primed to be turned in the next time that I look at the bin. So this bin would have been turned about 3 or 4 days ago. There's a little guy laying on top. Not sure why he's laying on top. Oh, he's just a little guy. He's a baby. He's okay. Looks good. So my video, I want to show you how I get the food ready for them. This is just a pumpkin. So instead of using a bunch of electronics and those food processors or anything like that, I do use a freezer. So I already have a freezer that stores my food anyway, so I will just pop a couple pumpkins in there, or squash. I have squash, pumpkins, I have everything in there. I also have lots of other vegetables that I stick in there. And freezing that food actually ruptures that cellular wall, makes it really easy. So this is a pumpkin. I mean, so I can, well, his rind, I guess, his hide is a little bit tough, so I'll use a knife to cut through that rind. But once I get into him, okay, now I can just stick my hand in there and I can pull out. I will pull some pumpkin out of here. Ooh, I don't want to pull out so easy. You know how pumpkins is when you, so then I can just put it into chunks and just leave those chunks down. Don't have to pulverize it. Even though, okay, maybe it's easier for the worms just to suck it right down. That reminds me of those people that take that hose down the duck's throat and just squirt the corn down in there to make that fatty liver. So that's a little red wiggler. He's got that nice yellow tail. So this bin seems plenty moist. It's got good moisture. It's also got good structure to it, so nothing's really matting together, and this is allowing a really good amount of oxygen to penetrate to the bottom. That's why I don't like the bins too deep, because the oxygen can't get all the way to the bottom. I do watch these bins and sample regularly when it looks like these conditions might be getting a little too wet, like on the bottom, then I will look at that under the microscope, and it will show me whether I am getting anaerobic conditions at that particular depth. So that way I can alter the way that I'm running the tank. And yeah, see that? I think that might have been a piece that got broke off of a tail at some time during the turning process. And that's why you got to be very gentle with your turning. You also want a soil that really breaks apart nice and easy, and that's why I've kind of switched to using the horse manure, because it really already just crumbles and falls apart. It's like the length of those pieces of fiber fragments that are left are just perfect, that they don't really mat up. So these, I no longer do it this way. I use the wood shavings on the bottom because, as you can see, I'm going to pull this up. You see that moisture setting underneath there like that, and below that cardboard like that, mesh. There is probably no way that the oxygen is going to penetrate through the cardboard and get to whatever. This is nitrogen down here, so that's what my whole goal is, to convert this nitrogen into NH4 form, into NH4, and doing it through the composting process. So I don't want any areas where there's anaerobic activity going on, because they're going to change that nitrogen to nitrate and nitrous gases and things. So I'm learning slowly as I go. This bin has not been split yet, so, and it will not probably be split. I'm leaving it right now on the heat mats to help the cocoons along. And then once I get the cocoons all hatched out, then I will move this bin, half of this bin, to the nursery or the grow out bin. So I wanted to get that up off that bottom, and then I'm going to get some of that pumpkin in there to feed them too. They've got plenty of food, obviously. They've got all this manure. There's lots of cocoons in here. I mean, nice big yellow cocoons everywhere. So that's happening. And I'm not adding anything other than the bedding at this moment in time for these breeders. And I'm going to get a really nice blend that I know is not going to heat up and is not going to end up getting too wet, too dry. And then I will be able to just make new bedding and stick them on the shelf and hopefully forget about them. Knowing a tried and true method for making sure the bedding stays the right moisture through this whole cycle that I'm creating with the trapping the moisture in the top, which will then fall onto the products that are drier that I place on the top. Then those will slowly moisten as the catabolism occurs and moisture is being created from below. Then it's going to bring that to the surface, which is going to fall back down on the drier materials, and hopefully it will all just keep composting down, feeding the worms and keeping the moisture correct. And then in that amount of time, when it's done, I can move them to a nursery grower bin, and keep this as easy as possible. Low maintenance. Running a farm and with all the animals it takes there, not much time to get these worms completely. So right here, I'm going to show you. Here's two. One's a blue. Look at how they act. This is my red, and this is the blue. Look at blue's being nice now. I want that diversity in my pen. I think that different worms probably harbor different bacteria. They definitely travel kind of different areas of the bin, depths. I want that for my soil out in the field. So when I apply these back onto the field, all the worms at different depths are going to be there. They're going to break up my compaction. And I'm telling you, we need the synergy of all of these things working together. They're symbiotics. And the bin seems to do wonderful with everybody mixed in. I understand the breeders that are just breeding for, you know, specific worms, fine. I'm doing this for a different purpose. I'm finding that mixing them in is going to probably give me the greatest product in the end. Especially once I see, I just got my European night crawlers, which I'm learning, they go deeper into the soil. So when I apply them in the spring, that's what I want. I want to break up that soil compaction really low. So I think I need more of them. So we just, you know, we're coming into this farm that's been chemically farmed for years, and I just learned that the anhydrous actually kills all the microbial and worm under the soil when you do that. So I just learned that. So I'm figuring my worm populations are pretty low. So I'm going to repopulate that. So what I want to repopulate it with is as most diversity as I can. I think that's going to bring me the most, you know, microbial species, and break up different levels of soil compaction that I have. I want to keep the Indians on top, which is where they seem to like to be. They come to the surface more than my red wigglers do. And so I feel like they're bringing, you know, bacteria from their skin. They're oozing that moisture off. I'm going to cut that into pieces. The only reason I wear gloves is people probably ask, well, I got one glove on or not gloves. I don't like the dirt getting under my fingernails. I don't know. That's just something I have to get over, I guess. It's, you know, but what I do is I constantly cleaning them, and then that tears up my nails. So that's why I don't. And I try to just do most of the dirty work with one hand so that my other hand doesn't always have to have a glove on. Okay, these guys, I feel I got this turned good, so they're reoxygenated. Not that I don't feel like this bin became anaerobic. Now, under this, yeah, I guarantee you there's some anaerobic conditions, and I almost guarantee you there's probably some spirochetes in there. I'm seeing them. In these wet bins, I'm seeing them. That's why I'm changing. I'm not having wet bins anymore. I understand the worms prefer, especially your breeders prefer the wet bins. You can get more, but you're going to have that anaerobic conditions, and, you know, the nitrate levels in the castings is going to be high. So now that we're kind of learning that, I'm going to tell people just to, I guess, be specific about when you buy castings, what were the environmental conditions. You know, go and look at these farms and see how these people are raising your amendments. And are they raising, you know, if they're raising these cocoons and they want trillions and trillions of cocoons because they're selling cocoons and their byproduct is loaded with nitrate, then maybe that's not what you're going to want, because otherwise you're going to be fighting weeds in your fields and your gardens like crazy because you're just giving them weeds fertilizer. Now, and then not much nitrogen left in a form that you can utilize. So kind of pass that on and get you a product that's, you know, more biocomplete, raised under those conditions where you're not going to have the nitrates to get into your, you know, you were raising these vegetables and stuff for people to eat, and you want good food, so you're going to probably want to be doing some nitrate testing and just show your customers that their food is not loaded with nitrates. How's that, everyone? Real or not, I don't know. This is just what I've started learning, and so that's why I'm taking all the precautions I can to keep these bins aerobic. This bin is not how I'm making my new bins. This is still one that's not gotten converted over since I've started learning all these techniques and getting a lot better. It's going to take time. These castings I'm going to use for myself anyway, so I don't feel like it's that big a deal. I should probably use two hands though. I didn't have so that's kind of interesting that these pumpkins peel right at their little. So I can just add, you know, a piece there. So if I'm going to go for this bacterial dominant soil amendment, I'm going to want to add more like these food scraps. Because the bacteria are going to just devour these things. And so the worms are going to be getting a lot more bacteria going through their digestive tract. So we're going to have more bacterial dominance there. And the bacteria don't go for that bedding so much. They're high carbon source. That's where your fungal colonies are going to thrive. And your worms are going to be eating a lot more fungus. So you'll have a fungal dominant amendment. But this is all why you got to take a lot of precaution for your feed stocks. These are your livestock. This is your herd. So you got to study worm chows. And make sure you're feeding your worms the best that you would, like I do. Like for my donkeys, I know they need a totally different food source than my horses, so we can't feed them all the same high protein, high sugar feed stocks. It all matters. That's my main point in life that I ever teach anybody anything. It all matters. Now, see how moist this is? I'm going to go ahead and add just a cover of dried leaves. And it's going to keep the moisture from getting too high down in this bedding that they're breaking up. Yeah, I'm not adding any moisture to these leaves. These leaves are completely dry. But catabolism is going to be happening right here. And this thing is already moist anyway, so it's going to create a lot of moisture. So I want to reclaim, instead of just taking that plastic off and letting it go out into this room, which I could stand to have a little more moisture in this room. I won't lie. I'm going to reclaim it, and these leaves are going to absorb that, so that my next layer going down to those worms, because these things, see, now you'll see how high up the bin is, but it's not a real deep bedding. It's just these leaves, and see how these leaves, I'm not crushing them up super small. Yeah, we realize that's gonna, but you're also gonna create less space for air to penetrate. So you're gonna create more of an anaerobic environment. So we want these leaves keeping this top layer nice and airy. Oxygen, nitrogen getting down in there, so these bacteria can start converting that to ammonium. So we can get that put on our crop ground instead of nitrates. I hope that everyone is sort of understanding what I'm saying. I don't mind if everyone thinks I'm crazy, because I like being crazy. I don't like being normal. I want to be different. There you go. I hope that's the depth of it. I hope I haven't missed anything. The bedding is important. The food stock is important. The worms are important. It all matters. Keep teaching the truth, everyone. Have a wonderful day.